Hello, everyone. We are about to start. So please write to the chat if you can see me and can hear me. Just send some messages like pluses, something like that. Okay, I started getting first messages, and it looks like everything is fine, but I just want to make sure that the same experience is for everyone. The people are coming, and we'll wait probably a couple of more minutes, and after that, I will start. People are still coming, and just probably 1 minute more. So if you have any questions or probably something will go wrong, just let me know. Send a message to the chat window, and I will look at it from time to time and check if everything is fine. Also, you can send me your questions. I will have some time during the presentation, and also we'll have a QA session at the end. So I think that your questions will be addressed. I would like to learn more about our geography, and please write to the chat where I'm from. Okay, I think that it's time to start. And so you saw me. That's me. My name is Trotsenko, and I will be the presenter today. And now I will switch on the presentation because it will help to understand the material better. So here we go. And so let's start. First of all, again, hello to everyone who has spent some time to join the webinar. Today we have a very interesting topic related to how to start your own IT startup. And frankly, I'm very eager to understand the audience and who came to this webinar. And it would be great if you just send some messages to the chat window and tell us about your relation to a startup, to the startup world. Please send one if you're just thinking about starting a new business and it's going to be an IT startup. Send two if you have an early stage startup. Send three if your startup went farther than MVP and probably you are on the seed stage or even further. Probably you already close round A or something like that. And so in general, today's presentation and today's webinar will be useful to people who think about starting a new startup or who has a startup on some very early stage. And I believe that it will be helpful also to some experienced entrepreneurs who are in need of organizing their internal processes and building some better organization and making sure that their product will improve and become better and better. So first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Roman Trotsenko. I'm CEO of InnoBright Incorporated, and also I'm a mentor at Mass Challenge Accelerator located in Boston. I started programming about 23 years ago, and my first computer was actually a programmable calculator. In 2002, I got a PhD in computer science from one of famous Russian technical universities. After that, I was a software developer and a project manager. In 2006, I and my friends started a software development company, currently having 97 employees on board. I was a co-founder of a couple startups as well. So at this point of my life, I help startups and sometimes enterprises to build their software. It could be mobile apps or web platforms and so on. Usually, it's not limited with some technical side. Taking into account that since 2006, I was able to accumulate some substantial experience in this world. Usually, I act as a mentor to people coming to me. And during this period of time, we were able to accumulate and gather some information about how to act and what to undertake if you want to succeed. And I want to share that information with you. Probably something will help you to avoid some typical mistakes made by startup people, and make sure that you will go directly to success without waste of time and money. The webinar is supposed to take probably 30 to 40 minutes. And after that, we'll have a Q&A session, and most likely it will take about 20 minutes. And first of all, I would like to speak about some pillars of a successful startup product. It doesn't mean that you cannot succeed without having all of them in place. Sometimes it's possible, However, the chances are way higher when everything is done properly. So let's say you have an idea and you decided to start an IT company. According to my experience and some common sense, you will need the following. First of all, you will need a real market need. Your idea could be really shiny. However, probably it's perfect just for you. Any new product has to solve some pains of real people. And the product as much successful as bigger the pain is, and as greater number of people are impacted. So if you just have something nice and you haven't done any customer discovery yet, you definitely should do that. You have to make sure that the product is desired by potential customers. I think that the biggest thing that is missed by startups coming to me and asking for some technical help, because usually they come with just an idea without properly done customer discovery, and most likely it will be again waste of time and money. The next thing is a team. Well, most of the good things are done by people, so you have to build a team capable of implementing the idea. The team has to have the right structure. Each team member should be proficient in what his role is about and be able to put enough efforts into the project. The third thing is resources. You will need time, money, and connections. Even running lean, you still require some basic resources to succeed. A goal is to minimize their use and to increase their amount when needed. Time is an important resource. It makes sense to be fast in our hectic world, fail and succeed promptly. Money is actually a blood of any venture. You should have some at the very beginning. And we will talk a bit later about how much to have to start well. Connections will help you to build the team, acquire resources, work on customer discovery and development. It's very important. Connections are always important, and it's all about people. And finally, you should have an efficient workflow. Like an orchestra without a conductor, an IT project can't live without well-tuned processes. Having it removes a lot of headaches, flaws, and issues, prevents the team from being too stressed and disorganized, makes sure you move toward the project goal, not an opposite direction. So in general, it's all about some basic things, some basics of startups. Now, let's talk about another thing. What types of software exist, what is involved, and which way to choose it first. I think that there are three major software types. The first is web-based platforms, the second is mobile apps, and the third is desktop applications. In my experience, desktop applications are rare in the world of startups, so let's not concentrate on them. Number two and number one, I mean mobile apps and web-based platforms are usually combined, and many services have web and mobile versions at the same time. Also, most of more or less complex mobile apps have web-based server backend used for user management, storing customer data, generating useful information, and so forth. Actually, mobile apps are usually interfaces to a cloud server-based informational system. So if you plan to create a mobile app, be aware of the need to create the backend. And people are going more and more mobile while still using web. However, web is used on mobile devices. So any software you build has to be mobile friendly. Even Google ranks mobile-ready websites higher. And my recommendation is when it's planned to build both a mobile app and a web platform, the best you can do is to create a mobile-friendly website first. That's because web version works better in user acquisition due to lower engagement efforts. Of course, sometimes your product is too tightly linked with some mobile device specific features, and it makes no sense to build a fully functional web version. Then, the recommendation I gave above should be disregarded, so it's obvious. So what about team? First of all, it's a painful question related to how many co-founders you should have to start successfully. And according to the startup space experience, I can tell you that one founder is too low number, just because it's like being a man of everything. And it's very hard. It requires a lot of efforts to keep the balance and to move forward when you are alone. 2 or 3 is the best thing. According to the statistics, the most successful projects were originated by teams of 2 or 3 co-founders. Even Google, 2 of them. It's Sergey Brin and Larry Page. And in a team of 2, usually one of co-founders is responsible for the business part and the other works on the software. What if you don't have a technical co-founder or you want to speed up the process? The recommendation is to hire an existing team or company. It's usually beneficial on early or MVP stages, at least, as it allows to start quickly, minimize delivery failure risks, and learn from professionals how to build software platforms. And if you think about having a bigger team of co-founders, I would not recommend to do that because when you have a bigger group of people, most likely you will have a lot of overheads related to communications, and usually it works badly, and definitely I can't recommend that. So the best number of founders is 2 or 3. Now let's talk about a development team. And here you see full team roles. So at least there are front-end developers, back-end developers, and HTML, CSS developer, graphics designer. Usually one is okay for the most projects, but sometimes some products have more. User experience designers, for the most projects, one is enough as well. Quality assurance engineers, a product manager. Also, it will be great to have a technical writer and business analyst. Some people ask, is it possible to have one or couple team members combining all these roles and all these skills? In my experience, it's possible for some of them, but the result is not that good and the risk of failure is greater. That's because every of those areas requires special talents, knowledge, and experience. It's like required from a gardener to be also a cook, a plane pilot, and a rocket scientist simultaneously. So it's usually too hard for 1 or 2 persons. The same I could tell about so-called full-stack developers who are able to do all the technical stuff, and some of them say they are good designers as well. Well, I can tell just 2 words: no way. I don't know people who can combine brilliant design and development skills, as it requires use and development on different parts of brain. If they exist, they are not ordinary and they have to be way expensive to hire. So probably you are already scared by the team size, but frankly, nothing to be scared about. The question is, do you need such a huge team? And the answer is if you are on a stage when your idea and business model are proved, you will have to hire all those people to make sure your product is improving, not deteriorating. And but if you just start, the team could be reduced. So the best version of that reduced team you see on the presentation slide. It's a product manager combined with product manager. It's a UI UX designer in one, front end, back end, HTML and CSS developer, and QA engineer. And sometimes this role could be combined with being a UX designer. So those roles could be combined. It depends on a specific structure of your team. Also, I want to tell about another big flaw related to young companies. They forget about the support. And you should take into consideration, into account that you will have support people too, and not just the ones who picks up the phone or replies to emails, but also the one who fix bugs. And you will definitely have bugs in your code. No way to avoid that. So it's something to be prepared to, because again, in my experience, I came across situations when people were thinking that developers are flawless, they don't introduce new bugs, and everything will work smoothly. But it's not the case in the real world of software. That's why I recommend to have someone to do that support. And one more thing about support. A lot of startup teams try to save and use the same team for the main development and the support. And this is a bad idea. Support will gobble up your core development. Your team will live in everyday rush, becoming more and more stressed and unsatisfied, while your product will suffer and will make no headway. So the best solution is to have a dedicated team to solve support tasks, or at least limit the support by a specific amount of hours if you use the core development team for it. One more point, which is disregarded and ignored by startup people. They think that QA is unimportant, but I strongly recommend to have dedicated people doing that. This is a profession, and if someone tells you that anybody can be a QA engineer, he doesn't understand the matter. As it was said by a technical director of a Fortune 100 company, MVP is not a lousy piece of software. It should be good enough software ready to be used by real people, just created quick and with minimum amount of features. Hence, don't think that people will be so glad you presented your software that they ignore the fact it's way buggy and nobody can use it. So your product should work. That's very important. So what about workflow? And here there are a lot of different methodologies related to software development workflows, and even related to workflows of working in a business. And some of them are like waterfall, lean, scrum, kanban, spiral model, and so forth. But taking into account, we discussed startup projects. The best, in my opinion, is some version of one of agile methodologies. At my company, we usually use Scrum with some adjustments, which is called Scrum Bot. It's an adaptation of the pure Scrum concept to the real world. And here, we don't have time to stop scrupulously on Scrum. That's why I just give you some idea about what we take from Scrum and what we avoid, or sorry, what we add to the regular Scrum methodology. So we take the following: sprints with goals, planning meetings, stand-ups, demos, and measuring team velocity, roles of product owner and scrum master, user stories and backlog, poker planning, retrospectives. And we add to it managers, different team members use differently, allowing to take into account their skills and preferences. So, and eventually we have the following workflow. All tasks are in a special list called backlog, and those tasks are called user stories. The backlog is ordered according to task priorities. Each development cycle is named sprint. Usually sprints are 2 weeks long. Each sprint's goal is to deliver a new version of the product. For instance, a sprint could have a goal to add Stripe payments to an existing system. At the end of the sprint, you receive an enhanced product with working Stripe payments. So the goal is succeed. Each sprint starts with planning, when the team decide what user stories to include to the sprint and what omit for now, according to the goal. Each day throughout the sprint, there is a brief meeting to recap what's done, to share plans for the day, and to tell about issues if anyone is in search of some help. Each sprint ends with a demo when the team shows the product owner what was done and a decision is made on success or failure of the sprint. And eventually, sometimes less frequently, there are retrospectives allowing the team to find flaws in the work and eliminate them. And I can tell you that such an approach allows to go incrementally, making a product better and better without need to think over any detail of the entire system. That's almost impossible and definitely very expensive. Doing that way, we bring a lot of agility and flexibility which are highly required by startup projects with the unformalized ideas and pivots. Another vital and important question: how much does it cost to start a company, to create some startup, and probably to become another unicorn? Here we have some estimated costs of MVPs, so minimum viable products of some well-known platforms. And you can see that Twitter supposedly costs about 200,000, Facebook 500,000, Pinterest 150,000, 250,000. It's about another service. It's Instagram, right? And Uber is probably about 1 million. And just for your reference, again, we talk about some MVPs, minimum viable product, something that could be used by real people, but it's not a final product. Of course, currently Facebook costs way more. The same about Uber, Instagram, and other platforms I just enumerated. And what about you? How much does it cost? Well, I give you some numbers that are used by our company to present some idea about cost of an MVP. And I can tell you that usually a web platform costs about 25,000. It starts from this point. And a mobile app, probably about 20,000 per one platform. So if you want to go fast and create something decent and useful, you should plan respective budgets. And just another thing to add is that those prices are usually for offshore development. If you go onshore and build the software in European Union or the US, most likely the price will be at least twice bigger. Now about some issues and flaws happening on the path to success, or what may go wrong. The first thing is vague description of the product. When the description is vague, it means that the idea is unclear, and there are a lot of things that need attention before you can start to implement them. As idea generators, co-founders should pay enough attention to what is conveyed to the development team if they want to receive an expected result. Otherwise, creative people on the team will just use common sense and their expertise to build things in a way not the co-founders, see it, which might be very different from what you imagined. Wrong people on the development team. Oh, it's a big issue. Some people don't have sufficient qualification. Some are not motivated enough. Some have a lack of organization and so forth. However, you have no idea about that until you start working with them. Sometimes even perfect references do not work good enough. So it's always a mix of intuition, wisdom, and best practices when you hire individuals or team. What I would recommend? Well, I would recommend to work with teams and companies, as they are way less risky than individuals and possess some greater experience. And usually it's a bit easier to find someone who fits well. The next issue is running out of money. The majority of early stage startups experience a lack of funds. That's normal. However, when you start your journey across the ocean, you build a solid and reliable boat and get enough food and water on board. The same about software development. Plan the budget from the very beginning. Take into account that no way to create any decent software for a couple of thousand. Work with people who are ready to stick with a fixed budget. Those are my recommendations. Running out of time. Sometimes it happens as well, and I would say that it happens a lot. However, there are some methods to avoid that, and I recommend to plan your activity. Try to be pessimistic setting deadlines. Be flexible at cutting features when you see that you're getting out of the expected time frames. Use a risk-free team that keeps promises most of the time. The next one is bad communication on the team. Well, I know at least a few major issues with communication in software projects. One of them is related to non-transparent environment. When people do not know what happens on the project, they don't understand goals, both strategical and tactical, and they can't be maximally productive because of that. Another way of communicating badly is to be too direct and order your team what to do instead of listening to them and finding out the best solution. Well, finally, some internal conflicts might happen when team members disagree. Some decisions or opinions, and nothing is done to mitigate that and resolve the issue. Proper and healthy communication is a flair and a skill. And I would say that it's mostly the latter. If you don't have it, which is normal for most people, it makes sense to have someone who has a respective experience. Workflow mess. Startup people tend to be as creative as possible. It allows them to generate outstanding ideas. Partly it is determined by a special spirit of freedom reigning at such companies. The flip side of the coin is a mess in their business processes. Sometimes people don't know how decisions are made, who is responsible for what, who can help, what to do next, and so forth. That's a big issue leading to a waste of time and money, and even failure of the entire project. You need some processes to be used internally, and you need someone to build that for you. As it's built and working, it's relatively easy to proceed to use it in the future. The next, bad quality of the product. I can tell that there is no way to produce such a complex thing as modern software without making mistakes, or we say having bugs. No flawless developers, period. You need to pay attention to quality assurance, as your users don't deserve sloppy products. As they will not stand that, most likely they will stop using it or go to your competitor. Sometimes people say, okay, we'll test it on our own. Don't make that mistake. QA is a special engineering skill. It has to be done by professionals who understand how to do that properly. And my recommendation, pay attention to quality assurance. Have a QA engineer on the team. Hire him or her at least part-time. It will save a lot of time and money in the end. Well, we are coming to the end, and the next thing is bad support. There are a few different versions of bad support. One of them is when you use the same team for the core development and the support. I already mentioned that. And it never works well. You should isolate those types of activities. Otherwise, your core development will suffer a lot, or your support will. Another bad way to do that is to ignore existence of support tasks. As soon as you launch a software project, you will have support, as it's impossible to take into account everything or fix all bugs, even if you have QA engineers on the team. So just know that you will have support and someone will have to be responsible for it. Technical debt. When you work on some software platform for a long period of time, you process a lot of tasks and do numerous pivots. And it's regular in a startup world. Sometimes the final result is very different from what was usually supposed. Usually, being in the process of building a platform, you can't consider everything. And new features are added without enough attention to the previously existing ones. As a result, you receive a Frankenstein that is too complex to be handled properly. My advice is to do refactoring from time to time, clean up an internal mess, and pay off a technical debt. And finally, lack of documentation. Well, this point goes in addition to the previous one. In a year, nobody can remember why something was done this or that way, and how to make changes safely, ensuring that nothing will be affected. You should have some minimal set of documentation that is kept up to date, allowing to recall important facts about the system, or bring a new team member on board quickly. I'm pretty sure there are more of things that may go wrong, but I tried to focus on some the most frequently met by me and by my team. And finally, what to do to start? Let's conclude all I said. First of all, make sure your idea is worthy of the other people and they are ready to pay for your product. Spare enough time and money. Gather a team. Adhere to some structured workflow. Build your product. Test your ideas. Care about your customers. Iterate until you come to the point where you can conclude your project. If you do that, most likely you will succeed. So I think that we are within the time limit for the webinar, and thank you very much for your attention. And now we have the Q&A session as I promised. I will reply the questions you already sent me, if any, and I'm ready to reply to new questions, if you have any after the webinar. Also, I want to mention that I'm planning to have a few webinars in this, like a cycle of webinars, and this one was just the first of many of them. And that's why I would love to hear from you what topics are interesting to you and what you would like to be covered to help you with your startup projects. Well, it seems like, okay. Looks like I received first question. Well, the question is, what areas of startups did you work with? And I believe that you probably mean what spheres of startup work I covered and I still cover. So I can tell you that, first of all, it's a technical area, mobile development, web development. So those are covered by my expertise or expertise of my team. Also, we have experience working with some marketing things, and we help startups to reach out to their target audience. Also, I have some connections to venture investors and angel investors. So sometimes if I see that some startup is ready for being introduced to someone having money, I can help with that. And we help with customer discovery, customer development. So I think that most of areas, most of questions related to some early stage startups are covered by me or my team. Hopefully I answered the question. If not, just let me know. Okay, I noted that we don't have any information about the stage of startups, or probably I mean the stage you are on with your startup. Probably it's about idea again, it's about early stage startup, or probably more mature product. And I would love to hear from you again. One for an idea stage, two for early stage. It's like probably just bootstrapping or seed stage or something like that. Three for much more mature products being funded by probably venture investors. It's like round A and so forth. Okay, I see some messages coming here. It looks like we have an idea stage here. On the idea stage, the best thing to start is to concentrate on customer discovery, because you have to make sure that your idea has any future. And usually it's not just interviewing your immediate family or your friends, it's also going public and telling about your idea and finding out if people are interested or not. And currently there are a lot of ways to do that. For instance, you can go to some social networks and ask people about their opinion on your idea, and it works very well. Sometimes people don't want to do that because they are afraid of their idea being stolen. However, I don't think that it's something. It's a reasonable fear, because idea usually is worth nothing, and just some combination of an idea and good implementation is worth something. And if you just share your idea, you like ensure yourself from waste some time and money, spend them on something that is not very needed by real world. Okay, so any other questions? We still have about like a number 13 minutes. So it seems like we have no other questions coming, and I encourage you to, if you have any later, I encourage you to use my email, and just you see it on your screen. You can use it to reach out to me. I usually reply promptly, and I will try to address your question as soon as possible and help you as much as I can. So thanks again for watching, and hopefully the webinar was useful to you, and hopefully it gave you enough information at least to start thinking about how to organize everything and how to hone your idea and create a successful startup project. So, and I want to say have a great weekend, have a great day if it's day on your end, and have a great night if it's night, and see you next time. Stay tuned.